Okay, so this little video is going to be about actually solving a Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium equation question. I talked a little bit about the point of Hardy-Weinberg and the assumptions of Hardy-Weinberg in my lecture, chapter 20 lecture. So here we're just really going to focus on like what kind of questions are we going to get and how do we go about answering them. So the first thing we're going to talk about is calculating allele frequency. So remember, an allele is a variant of a gene. So maybe you have a gene for fur color and you might have two different alleles. Maybe one that gives you brown fur and one that gives you white fur. And usually we would call let's write this on the side here. Usually we would call maybe the dominant allele with a capital letter B, and that would be brown fur, and the recessive with a lowercase letter, and that would be the recessive allele, and it maybe would code for white fur. Okay, so in any given population, these alleles exist at some kind of frequency, right? You can sample a population and say what is the frequency, how common is the big B brown allele, and how common is the little b white allele. That would be their frequencies. So we use P, the letter lowercase p, to designate the frequency of a dominant allele, and Q to indicate the frequency of a recessive allele. And so P plus Q must equal 1, or 100%, right? So if the frequency of P is 0.5 or 50%, then the frequency of Q must be 0.5 or 50%, because they've got to equal 1 or 100%. So if the frequency of P was 0.7, then the frequency of Q must be 0.3. You get the idea. Okay, so that's kind of the first step, is allele frequency. Now, we can use what's called the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium equation, which is this P squared plus 2PQ plus Q squared equal 1. This basically is describing the genotypes in a population if that population is in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, meaning that allele frequencies aren't changing generation to generation. So in this formula, let me make this a little bigger. The P squared is representing the percentage of homozygous dominant individuals. Right, so that makes sense, hopefully, right? If P equals the dominant allele, and let's call it big B. Let's say this is our dominant allele, and it's brown fur. Well, then P squared is our individuals with the genotype big B, big B. Likewise, if Q is little b, our white fur, our recessive allele, then Q squared is our individuals who are little b, homozygous recessive. And then what we call 2PQ, these are our heterozygotes, big B, little b, okay? And this needs to equal 1, or 100% of the individuals in the population, right? So the frequency of individuals who are BB plus the frequency of BB plus the frequency of heterozygotes must equal 100% of the organisms in the population. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, if you know the frequency of one of the alleles, it allows you, using this formula, to calculate genotype frequencies. And actually vice versa, if you know a genotype frequency, you can go back and calculate an allele frequency. So let's try an example question. So let's say I have a hypothetical population of 100 mice. And I tell you that we're going to look at a gene for fur color. Big B is dominant, and it gives you brown fur. And little b is recessive, and it gives you an albino mouse. It gives you white fur. Now, one of the things the question will always do is give you, it has to at least tell you something about either a genotype or the frequency of an allele. And very frequently, what you're going to know is the number of individuals who have the homozygous recessive phenotype, because that is the one we can observe, right? If we look at something that has a recessive phenotype, like white fur, we automatically know its genotype. So that's usually the piece of information you get. So we're going to tell you 36 of these mice have white fur? Because that's something you'd actually be able to see. If you looked at a population of mice, you'd be able to count and say, oh, I see 36 white ones. Okay, this piece of information is going to allow us to calculate everything else. Okay, so remember, so we're saying that 36 mice have white fur, meaning that they are the genotype little b, little b. Now remember, now let's think back. So the percentage of homozygous recessive individuals, which is what we have, is our Q squared. So we would then say that Q squared is equal to 0.36, or 36%. I'm getting the 36 because 36 mice divided by the 100 total in the population is equal to 36%. Okay, so I know Q squared equals 0.36. So let's just say Q squared equals 0.36. All right, so our next step is to figure out one of the alleles. And the allele we can figure out is Q. All right, if Q squared equals 0.36, then all we need to do is take the square root of 0.36, which is 0.6. So if Q squared equals 0.36, then Q must equal 0.6. Perfect. Now that we know Q, very easy to figure out P, because P plus Q equals 1. So if Q is 0.6, then P must equal 0.4, because P plus Q must equal 1. So now that we know P and we know Q, all we've got to do is plug it into the equation. So my individuals who are homozygous dominant, that's my P squared. So I know P is 0.4, so it's just 0.4 times 0.4, so 0.16. We already know Q squared, right? Because that was in the problem. So we know that's 0.36 because that was what was given to us. And 2PQ is 2 times 0.4 times 0.6, right? So we know that from the problem, we know that Q squared was 0.36 already. And the proportion, the allele frequency was 0.6 because that's what the square root of 0.36 is. Okay, hopefully that didn't confuse you. Anyway, so 2PQ is 2 times 0.4 times 0.6, the frequency of P and the frequency of Q. So that is 0.48. And we should see that these add up to 1. So 0.48 plus 0.16 plus 0.36 should equal 1, or 100%. And I'm very quickly going to pull up my calculator just to make sure that that is right. 0.16. Always check. Always check. 6 plus 0.48. Yes, it equals 1. So we did it right. That's always your check at the end. Make sure it equals 1. So that is an example of how to go through Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium equation problems. I'm just gonna, because it makes me feel better, even though we knew this already. I'll put that in there. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to go over this in lab as well, but I wanted to give you just a little example to look at. This is the kind of stuff we're going to be doing. And, sometimes your problem will give you a different piece of information. Sometimes your problem will straight up tell you, hey, the frequency of P is this. Or maybe it'll tell you, hey, you have this many homozygous dominant individuals. And the great thing about this equation is as long as you have one piece, you can solve the other pieces usually with very simple math. Okay, there's also a ton of resources online if you want practice problems, and I would be happy to post something as well. So, yes, let me know if you have questions, and we'll see you in lab.